there you go. We now have a nice hole in our fancy wheel. Let's go. Ready and go. Right? This is so cool. And gloves should do it. Not much for today's install. Howdy guys, I'm Jeep and Jason. Today, we're gonna be upping my air down game with a set of these monster valves from PowerTank. Now this was a surprisingly easy install. I got this last one to do. I'm gonna bring you guys in and show you a little bit about these and walk you through the install, and we'll do a timed air up, air down to show you. All right, so here's some of the stuff that I got a little bit carried away on the website. Let me show you guys here. So I got the Monster Valve Tap rapid tire air up and air down kit, and I did the 5 monster valves with the chuck, and it comes with the right size tap and some other accessories here that you'll need to make this work. And so I went in and got the extra credit by getting the digital gauge. Now you could get an analog gauge. I mean, there's ways to tailor this to you, but wait till you see this thing in action and you'll see what I mean, why I'm like super thrilled about this setup. The only thing I had to buy extra to get this going, since it came with the right tap to do the threads, was a 7/16 drill bit, and that's what this particular monster valve, the MV1, needs to get this done. Hey Pinto, what's going on? Come here. This is Pinto, the dog, as you guys know. What's going on, girl? She likes nitrogen charging and awesome shocks too. Right, bud? Yeah, what's going on? Now, not only did I see the PowerTank on a bunch of rigs on the trails over the years, I bought their nitrogen fill kit years ago. As soon as I got nitrogen shocks on the Jeep, I wanted to be proactive and have the cool kit to be able to keep those filled and stay ahead of that. And a funny thing that I noticed when I did that video is all of us are wired to, when we see it, we see the high-end stuff that all of the PowerTank, this is kind of what this company's MO is that all of their stuff is really high end, and it's over engineered, overbuilt, and high quality stuff. So everything you touch is super good feel and just nice to interact with. And so a lot of the comments I got on that video were, well, I could build that same kit for half the money. Well, sure, you absolutely could, but I feel like there are certain things to skimp on. Like, you're looking at a dude that saves money by using a empty Windex bottle to have soapy water in to test for leaks. So I'm frugal when I want to be, but then I'm starting to appreciate the times when higher end equipment and gear is just really rewarding to use, and this is exactly one of those. I love my nitrogen kit. That's what actually started me down this path, is that I was just doing some maintenance and tinkering on my nitrogen kit. By the way, do you guys want to see a nitrogen charging shock? I did it a long time ago. If you guys want, chime off in the comments if you want to see me charge the nitrogen on the shocks. It's really fun and easy thing to do. Let's see what that pressure is. Oh, that one was at 50. That one was legitimately low on the top. So that interaction of going back to their website to get the parts for that started me down this path, and here I am now with a set of monster valves. And then I ended up going crazy, and I'm building my own little kit here to just use my air compressor on the trail. And I ordered one of their hoses, a couple of their high-end couplers. And the cool thing about these couplers is that I've now made it so I can plug it into my compressor and then also still fill on the monster valve and monitor my pressure with this right here. By the time I was done, I ended up with the tire repair kit, which is something that I've been wanting to add to mine. I had just a really kind of a haggard one. So this right here is gonna be nice to just stuff that. This is all the stuff you need to do a tire repair kit. So I ended up getting a few extra things. This is empty box because I've already put this is the high pressure blowgun. I've already used that to blow out the garage 3 times, so I couldn't wait for the video to save to show you that one. So that one's already over there by the Jeep where we're gonna work. So let me bring you in for a closer look at the actual monster valve, and what makes these things so cool is that here's the basics of what you're doing here is you're actually just increasing the size. Now here's a standard Schrader valve that you would find in your vehicle, and then this is the monster valve. You just see the larger diameter lets just obviously so much more air flow through there. So you have that going for you, and then when you deflate your tire, you just open this bottom collar here, and you will actually see all of the holes that just let massive amounts of air out of this thing. You can just see all of that go here. And that is the key to the speed of which this deflates your tires. And you just close that back down that simply. And then you would fill. It comes with this chuck that is a quick fit, boom, and you are now ready to plug this into any air hose. I'm gonna do it, I don't have a power tank yet, so I'm just gonna do it to a compressor and then fill and stop from here, and then quick release off. It is surprisingly rewarding to use this stuff. They have thought of everything. This little rubber cap here is gonna surprise you when you see this thing in action. I'm not gonna spoil, just you wait. So now here's a quick little tip. I'm going to just jack up right under the center of the differential here in the rear. Now you don't have to even take the wheels off of your vehicle to do this. It's really quite fun once we get started. I have a little bit of practice now on a couple of different tires. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm not lifting the Jeep at all. I'm just supporting the weight of the Jeep right there, so that when we do let the air out of the tires, it won't wanna flop down and just rest on that. It'll just help support the Jeep. All right, so you can see it doesn't take a lot of advanced tools here. This is just going to be something that I wouldn't rate E for everyone, but B for beginner, in the sense that it's not hard. It's just something you really want to pay attention to because you don't want to ruin your expensive wheels or do anything to damage the monster valves here. So over here I have my drill bits. I'm going to step up from an 1/8 inch on up to the 7/16. I'm going to do 4 steps. Now I'm not even going to air down. I'm just going to I'm going to drill while the air is coming out, and it'll blow the drill tailings out of the wheel. It's kind of a fun thing. So once we get going, we're gonna commit to it. Now, what I'm gonna do, and what the suggestions are, is that you do it directly across from your stem. So I have the wheel just lined up now, so the stem is directly up and the monster valve is gonna go across. Now on these Vision wheels, I thought about putting it in this trough here, but it collects a lot of water and I couldn't reach the barrel very easily. So I decided to put it on this shoulder right here. There's plenty of room. And the one thing that I was worried about is if I put it there that it might catch a rock, like if I were to catch a rock in there. And again, with that concern, I went ahead and just called Power Tank and got Tyler on the phone, who's a very, very rad, helpful dude. And he said, okay, well, here's the deal. You got to put it, ideally it would be neat to put it in here, but I have barely any reach. And that's one of the things that's been frustrating from the get-go on these wheels, is that where this stem is inside here is really awkward to reach, and there's just no room to put it inside one of these things here. So it's going to go here, and he just sent me 4 of the NPT plugs that I could just put in the hole. So if I were to damage one on the trail, I could at least just back it out and then just put a plug in it and be just done with it. So that put me at ease there. Let's go ahead and put this in. So you first figure out where you're gonna do it, and that's where we're gonna do it for these Vision Mag speed locks. Then you put a little mark here, or this is the technique I'm gonna use, so I know, just double checking my spot, measure up and get it just right in the middle of this thing and right in the middle of that window there. And then I like to always, since this is a fancy aluminum wheel, I'm gonna just use a punch, get myself a nice starting point. So now that we have our location picked, it's time to get ready. So I got my drill bits on standby right here, and our final drill bit, the 7/16, ready to go here, and let's get going. Now remember, it's gonna be a little jarring. The first time I did this and the air came out, I was like, oh no, and it's like, oh, no big deal. Okay, watch this, here we go. just in time. Now, I was in a hurry to get that done right exactly at that moment as the air finished coming out, and I didn't have time to tell you, just now is the time, even though you're having fun racing the air pressure, to make sure you get an absolutely perpendicular hole here, so that way that your stem goes and sits flush against that base there. So there you go, we now have a nice hole in our fancy wheel. Now what I'm gonna do, since I'm me, is I'm gonna go ahead and just vacuum up some of the tailings now to get them out of our way. Now that we have the big stuff out of the way, I'm going to take my blowgun, and this is that one that we talked about earlier that's already in use here. And just blow out our work area, keep everything clean and ready to go. And now it's time to put threads in that hole to match the depth of our monster valve, because these are an NPT type thread, which means that they taper down at the bottom there. You don't want to thread all the way through or up this tap here. So what I've done is I've measured after doing a couple of wheels. I did the first one and just carefully measured. And what you want to do is you want to thread it down to where you can, by finger tight, you can thread the monster valve in and have a thread and a half showing. And then that way it gives you that one full turn to actually go down. It doesn't have to go really tight, and that's the key here. So I went ahead and taped it there. I'll give you a reference to see next to the monster valve what that looks like. So then now you take some cutting oil. I don't actually have any cutting oil, but I do have some 20W50 that works just fine. And you put some cutting oil on your tap here. And what is this? This is a 1/2 inch socket will actually work on this thing instead of the traditional T-handle here. So you want to just get that started there. And it's important, again, this is where it's not hard, you just got to pay attention to make sure that you're getting your tap started perpendicular to the hole, or, you know, right in line here. You don't want to cross thread it from the beginning, and you'll feel it when it starts to bite. And then we'll just go in until we get enough material in the cutting edges of the tap that you'll feel it like it'll be cutting, and then it just gets stiff here, and then that's when you know to just back this off. Now what I do, I go overboard, is I go ahead and I clear the threads by using my vacuum. I don't want to blow those in, even though, just so you know, getting any of these aluminum shavings inside your tire is not going to do anything. So I just don't want them in there. So that's what I'm going to do. So you go backwards, and then you can drive down and start cutting a little bit more till it gives you some too much resistance. And we'll back that back out. And this is fun stuff here. Let's go ahead and take our bit out. We're still not all the way down. I know that already. Actually, since we're out here, we can go ahead and blow this off. Okay, I don't know how Power Tank does this. Even though these are expensive compared to my Home Depot gun, it's like a turbo. Like, it is like a laser beam of air. Do you see that? It has kickback, it has so much air. So somehow they do that. It's worth it. I love this thing. It's my new favorite thing out here. All right, we're gonna put a little bit more cutting oil on here. Don't wanna just run through there dry. And we'll get that back down in there. Should go very easy all the way down to where you've finished cutting. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right to the tape, because that mark has worked for me already, so. Okay, and I'll show you. I'll run it in and show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So we'll pull that back out. So now what I'll do is I'm going to take the collar and stuff off of this thing because we're going to take that off anyway to get this in place. So we'll just unscrew the collar all the way back up the top here. Put this aside. I'm going to pull this little cap holder leash off as well. We'll store that over here. And then now we'll go ahead and thread this down in there. and we'll eyeball the threads, and exactly a thread and a half left to go. So now that we know that we have our depth correct that we like, we're gonna take, what they recommend is blue Loctite. Just blue Loctite, but a good amount, not just a drop. Like normally I just put a drop of this stuff on one side. They want a good fair bit around the threads here, so we'll go ahead and do that. And now we'll go in for final install here. Thread it down. And then this takes a 9/16 deep socket, and that will drive this down into the rest of the threads. And you don't go super tight with this either. Get it to its snug and then just tight. Just snug it down and just a little bit, like an eighth of a turn onto that thing. And that's it, we're done there. So your monster valve is now installed. Let's get it actually finalized by putting the collar back on and the cap back on. So we'll take our cap and our dealio here. We'll go ahead and put our leash back on, and we'll just put that down over like this. Get that back into its little channel that it's supposed to live in, and there we go. So you can see now how that pivots around and keeps that under control. And then what I want to do is I'm going to just clean this off, since we've now worked inside here, and clean this off, make sure there's no debris, because all of your seal on the monster valve is this O-ring and this O-ring. So two O-rings in there, one at the top, one at the bottom of this thing. So what they want is to just make sure that those are nice and lubed up, and don't use any petroleum, don't use a Vaseline, don't anything like that. So use a silicone type grease. The kit comes with a little bit of that. So you could actually, it comes with a little tiny packet of it, but since I actually have some of this stuff, I'm just gonna use out of my stash here. And so I'm just going to put a little dab inside there, and then a little dab on this O-ring down here. So we'll just put that on there, and then just put the collar and just thread that down. And you'll feel as it bottoms out onto that thing. And again, another cool tip here that I saw on one of Tyler's videos, on their actual install videos, of course I watched those and then I'm doing my own version of that for you guys, is that tightening that, it's not a pressure seal. It's those two O-rings seal. So when you get down and bottom out, don't actually tighten that. He actually recommends going all the way down and then coming back like an eighth of a turn. I'm gonna just come off like a 16th of a turn there. And so that should be enough. And then we can put our top on and you get an idea of what this looks like dialed in. And that's it, done. Monster valve is installed. Now that it's set up a little bit, it's time for the really fun stuff. We're gonna go ahead and use, now this is where this stuff has come into play, and I never knew how much I would appreciate having these two stems to manipulate the tire pressures on your tires. Watch this, it's really, really fun to do it this way, and I'll give you an example. So we'll go ahead and get the coupler on the top here. Now for the good stuff. We are gonna go ahead and time the fill up from 0 up to, I say we'll stop at 30 or so. So we just put the chuck on, that goes down like that, just push that down, wake up your phone, everything's on, you guys ready? And go. Now already you could just see, watch this, 3, 4, right? This is so cool. And if you notice, the tire didn't collapse a bunch. That was the only reason I put the jack under the differential, but we're at 20 seconds and 14 PSI. I will stop that once we get to 30. Here we go. This is just this interface here, having this gauge on while you're filling at this rate is just really astounding to me. So we'll get in position to stop at 30, 28, 29, 30. So that was just over 50 seconds to go from 0, nothing, to 30 PSI. Now I noticed that the air pressure bounces around a little bit, so I stopped the valve at 30 and it'll settle in about 28.5 over here on this gauge, and you can see it's settling down. It's 28.9 right now. That is remarkable. Even with my compressor going full tilt, that was a couple minutes worth of filling up before, like when I did the beadlocks before. So this just shows you how cool this, and then just this interface, you know, now you're done. Like you can just now dial it in with this thing and just get your pressures exactly right. And that's the other thing about having the interface here with your gauge attached to the other stem, and then you have your monster valve here for in and out air. Now you're ready to hit the highway. Really cool, right? So while we have it set up like this, we might as well just do an air down simulation. So let's go from what we're sitting at here at 28.5, almost 29, we'll go down to like 10 and see how that goes. So we'll go get started here, and as soon as I hear air, we'll start it. And again, it's really cool to watch this. Look at how fast that's going. Holy mackerel. Oh gosh, I didn't even get my fat finger on the valve to shut it off. So now here's a good example of, the air pressure seems to bounce around a little bit inside here. So we're down at 12. Let's go ahead and dial that in. Let's actually go. So it's going to take some getting used to of when you actually start the actual closing of the valve. I should have just left it before and then done it the rest of the way down with this thing here to get it a little bit more precise. So you can see how this interface is just ridiculously cool. So instead of putting all your deflators on, which I actually had to just wrestle with because of this up here is just so hard to get at, and then walking away for 25 minutes or so until they deflate, it's literally 22 seconds per tire, hit the trail. And you don't think about saving that kind of time and how frustrated it is to do that until in the moment. Like I always find myself not dealing with it here in the garage because you just like, oh, I'll worry about it on the trail, and then that's when you're frustrated. So this just takes this to such another amazing level. So for fun, we'll get this thing back up to driving pressures and do that timing. And so we'll go down with our chuck. That fits on super easy. This is so cool. Like, and that's, again, that whole thing about having the higher quality stuff is that you get that tangible feel when you interact with it. So let's go, ready and go. So again, we'll stop that at 30 and we'll stop the clock. So this is airing up when you're done with the trail. This is real time, guys. Let me come up with a dad joke for you. I don't even have anything for you right now, but it's I have too much pressure here. Get it? Pressure. And 26, 29, 30. Okay. So it took 35 seconds to go from what we were at 7 to 30 PSI. That's a dramatic difference. And I think this is gonna make a huge difference out on the trail. I just like the fact that I just have this ability to interact with the tuning and the tweaking of the Jeep out on the trail, and I won't be lazy now and not do it because having this is just so nice. Look at that. So we're just done. We'll put our cap back on. Watch this, we'll take this off. Put that on. Pull our chuck out. Now before I pull this out, I run these tires at 28 cold, and that's where I get my best results on the highway. So we'll go ahead and get there. Again, with how good this feels and how responsive all this stuff is, I just dig it. Just super dig it. Can you tell? Can you tell? This is fun. All right, we're at 28. So as if using all of this goodness wasn't enough. Here's the surprise hit that just actually came at me from nowhere. The kit comes with these little rubber caps here, and what they do is they replace the screw on top. Now, this screw-on cap here, I never realized how much I hated that thing until you see what this thing does. So you take that off, and you see how all that time it took me to unscrew that? Well, watch this. This thing just goes like that, and it's done. So when you go to hook your gauge up there, you just go boink, and that's it. And then when you're done with the whole thing, that's it. Like, that surprised me at how much I liked that thing. So you throw your screw-on caps away. So you save yourself, I don't know how many nuisance-y seconds with that one right there. So there you go, a really mind-blowingly fun, super cool upgrade. Don't come into this one thinking that, you know, you're gonna save a bunch of money on this stuff. This is, when you go to Power Tank, you're gonna get high-end stuff, and it's I think in my mind worth it. And remember, in the comments, if you guys wanna see me get out the nitrogen charge kit to do the shocks, let me know. If you guys want me to do a detailed usage of that, that kit has come in handy for me because I like doing that, and it saves me from having to go to the shop. They charged me $50 a shock to do that. So that paid for itself. Now I've had it for 4 years, but so yeah, so there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, enjoy your drive. Yeah, I think I need to check my tire pressures again. Yeah, I think so. That's a great idea. Oh, look at that. I didn't even have to unscrew. All that time I wasted. Still holding 28. I did that yesterday. Can you imagine installing all this stuff and it working perfectly? Yeah, I can. All right. See you next time, guys.